excited about this video. I'm going to talk about a phrase, 除了以外. It's 除了 something 以外. And this is an interesting phrase because depending on this is what comes after the comma. This is a phrase that means, it can mean something like except ... except something, and then a phrase like I also like except this, I don't like any of them. Or it can be like in addition to something ... And so depending on what comes after the comma, it'll influence the way, sometimes it'll influence the way we translate the phrase into English. So it can mean except, or it can mean in addition to. And in the past, I've really had a hard time conceptualizing the basic concept of this phrase. I can understand those translations, but when I was studying for this lesson, I really thought through it, and it kind of came, I had my aha moment. And I might nerd out on you a little bit with this, might geek out a little bit on you, so we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to start with how I now understand the phrase, and then I'll go back to a little bit of explaining why it was such a cool moment to come to that. So the phrase, what I realize is there are actually several phrases, there are several ways to translate this into English that works the same way. And I think it's so helpful to think about it in an English phrase that actually works the same way and like means this exactly the same thing. So I don't have to think like, depending on what comes after it, I translate it this way, and depending on, that's why it was so helpful to me. So basically what this phrase actually means is this English phrase, outside of. Outside of. So 除 means to cut off. 以外 literally means on the outside of something. So 除了 something 以外. So outside of, now let me give you a couple of English phrases. We could say, outside of oranges, I don't like any fruits. Outside of oranges, I also like apples and grapes. Does that make sense? So the outside of thing kind of like takes this idea and separates it, and then we talk about something else. So that's why it can mean in addition and except. There are also other English phrases. We could say apart from. Apart from oranges, I don't like any other fruits. Apart from oranges, I also like apples and grapes. We could say besides, also works. Besides apples, besides oranges, I don't like any other fruits. Besides oranges, I also like apples and grapes. So I had this aha moment. There are ways to actually translate 除了以外 into one English phrase, and then it'll work to express these different kinds of meanings afterwards. So let me give you some Chinese examples here. Whew, this is I got really squashed here, so hopefully that'll be clear. 除了橙子以外, what's 橙子? Oranges. I'm using the same example I just did in oranges. In English. 除了橙子以外. So outside of oranges, 我什么水果都不喜欢. I 什么水果都,水果 means fruit. The 什么都, you should be able to recognize that. It means what? It means any fruit, all. So it means every fruit, every other kind of fruit. 我什么水果都不喜欢, do not like. So besides oranges, or outside of oranges, all other fruits I don't like. Let's take the same phrase here, 除了橙子以外. Then we continue the sentence here. 我也喜欢苹果和葡萄. I also like apples and grapes. Can you believe it? I didn't write the Chinese in here simply because I was just too lazy. I don't actually know how to write those characters from memory. And looking at it on my computer, which was kind of far away, and trying to it was just, dude, I'm not doing it. So sorry about that. You caught me in like absolute, I'm not willing to put in the effort to write those Chinese characters. So there you have it in Pinyin. So outside of oranges, or besides oranges, I also like apples and fruits. Here we have one from All Set Learning. 除了政治新闻以外. So outside of political news, 以外. So except for political news, or besides political news, 其他新闻, other news, 我都看. I watch them all. Other news, I watch any other news. Sometimes doing on-the-fly translation is just like, woo! But that's that. That's a little complicated, a little bit more complicated one. And here we have one that's kind of fun. This is also from All Set Learning. 除了运动以外，运动 means sports. 除了运动以外 so besides sports, 你还有什么爱好？爱好 means hobby. So what does this mean? 你还有什么爱好？ It means what other hobbies do you have? Or you also have what hobbies? Literally, you also have what hobbies? So 爱好 好 it normally is pronounced 好 but when it's in this word it means to love, to do something, or to be to be interested in, to love, and so it's pronounced fourth tone 爱好. And anything else to point out? Yes, I wanted to point out that the phrase, the part of the phrase yǐwài, this part of the phrase, it can be omitted and it will still mean the same thing. So chúle something. You can drop the e and just say why. 除了这个, is that right? 除了这个外, 除了橙子外, actually, it doesn't sound right to me. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I do know you can replace it with 之, 除了这个东西之外, 除了这个以外, or 除了这个 are all fine. It's just by adding the yǐwài or the 之外, it just makes the phrase more complete, more full, and perhaps potentially more clear, but it does mean the same thing with just 除了. And yeah, I think I told you about, so there's besides, aside from, other than, apart from. There are ways to translate it into English that it has the same function, no matter what comes after it. The more classic translations are except, and so when it's except, what will come after it is usually something like 都. So it's like, except oranges, I like all other fruits. Or this was an example of that. Except political news, other news are all, I watch them all. So that's except. So 除了都 often is translated except, and then 除了也 or 除了还 is often translated in addition to. But again, there are ways to translate it to English that it actually means the same thing and functions the same way. And I found that, for me, conceptually, to be super helpful. I know for someone who's just learning this, they're like, dude, I don't really care about all that because I didn't go through years of being confused or trying to grasp like what that meant. But basically what happened was, I'm like, there's two different translations, and I conceptually sort of get the idea, but I'm not fully getting it. And finally I'm fully. So now you get to experience me fully getting it. I hope that you fully get it too.